Welcome to November Sky Notes from the LAS. This is a quick review of the month ahead in the night sky. This is an all-sky view of the heavens during mid-month, about 9 p.m. You can see that we're losing two planets in the evening twilight, Jupiter and Venus, Jupiter and Saturn, and we have Mars centrally in the southern aspect as well now. So we've still got some of the summer triangle up in the western skies here, but we're losing that progressively as the month progresses. We have a square of Pegasus, which is a good signpost constellation to, or asterism, to actually find your way around the night sky. If you follow the two end stars of the square of Pegasus down, you'll come to the bright star Fomalhaut in the Southern Fish, constellation Southern Fish, and that's quite an easy spot this time of the year. Overhead, we have Cassiopeia and the Milky Way, which is very prominent in a dark sky environment. And we also have Andromeda, and the galaxy is almost overhead now. Andromeda Galaxy is almost overhead. We have a constellation of Perseus, which is the pie-shaped constellation here, and the Milky Way runs from Cassiopeia through Perseus, through Auriga, and down past the end of Taurus in towards Orion and Gemini. So Orion is just starting to rise by mid-evening, mid-month. Constellation of Ursa Major is located into the northern aspect, all very close to the horizon. So looking south, as I said before, we've got the bright star Fomalhaut and Mars. Mars is particularly bright and is easily spotted, characteristic orange in colour. We also have Uranus and Neptune available to us, and we've just about got Saturn and Jupiter still by mid-evening. Those familiar night sky will obviously recognise the Seven Sisters star cluster here, which is a sign of autumn. So we're now into the autumn sky view. Underneath the square of Pegasus, you'll find another asterism, which is a circlet in Pisces. And this is a useful signpost to actually finding Neptune here at the end of this point of stars here, next to Phi Aquarii. Looking to the west, we mentioned before, we are really losing the last of the summer sky now. Arcturus is gone, Boötes is setting very early evening. We still have the square of the keystone formation of Hercules, with two bright globular clusters to find in that, but it is getting progressively lower in the evening sky, so it's getting more difficult to find some of these things. Moving on to the north, I mentioned that Ursa Major and the asterism called the Plough is almost horizontal here, and you can see that the constellation of Ursa Major extends quite a long way. Actually, it's a very big constellation, and these are the fore paws and the hind paws of the Great Bear. Quite low in the sky there. They're easily visible from a dark sky site. If you follow the last two stars in the Plough here, American Dubhe, up 5 times the distance, you'll come to the pole star Polaris. Opposite the Plough is a constellation of Cassiopeia, the W, or the M in this case, it's this time of the year. Easily spotted, and it's a good signpost constellation for finding it around the sky. If you find the centre star and extend this way, you'll come to the double cluster between Cassiopeia and Perseus. It's visible as a misty patch in naked eye, and it's a good binocular and a very good telescopic object. Into the east, we're now starting to see some of the winter constellations appearing by late evening. We have Orion rising, and of course we have Taurus here centrally placed below the Seven Sisters star cluster. Obviously we have the Hyades here, which is an open cluster. In fact, it's the closest open cluster to Earth, and it forms this V formation at the nose, the tip of the ball with Aldebaran, which is actually in Arabic the follower, and it's following the Seven Sisters across the sky. We also have at the end of Taurus M1, the Crab Nebula. It's a very difficult object in small telescopes, but it's a misty patch, slightly elongated oval shape, and you can detect it in dark sky conditions. We also have Auriga and the bright star Capella, and this is an easy spot. And below Capella, we have three reasonably nice clusters of stars, M38, M36, and M37. And below that, in Gemini, we have M35. You'll notice that the bright stars, Castor and Pollux, are just rising here by late evening. New moon this month is on the 15th, first quarter is on the 22nd, full moon on the 30th, and last quarter is on November the 9th. And the name of this month's moon, full moon, is the Beaver moon. So watch out for the moon illusion, moonrise around about time of full moon. If you want more information about finding Mars, Uranus, and Neptune, there are 3 newsletters, as you can see, 252, 253, and 254. This month's constellations featured are Pisces, Cetus, and Taurus. And this is a global map, effectively taken from Megastar, showing deep sky objects down to 10th magnitude. And you can see that some interesting things are in the aspect at the moment. We have an asteroid, which is featured as well in newsletter 261. This is asteroid 8, which is Flora. And it's reaching around about 8th magnitude, I think, this month. And it reaches a position on the 1st of November, very close to this formation of stars here. You can see this is in Cetus. In fact, Cetus looks a little bit like a whale if you squint your eyes at it. We have the head of the whale here, represented by this star, and the body of the whale, and this is the tail flutes, effectively, of the whale. So actually, this is quite an easy asterism to find, and Flora is just next to the last star here on November the 1st. Above that formation, we have Uranus, and you can find Uranus by dropping down from these 2 stars in the constellation of Aries, about 2.5 binocular fields. And it's the brightest object in this area of sky here, so it's an easy spot. I almost can claim I saw it naked eye from a dark sky site earlier in the month. We also have an interesting object in Comet 2020 M3 Atlas, which is moving up from the southern hemisphere and is traversing the constellation of Orion this month. And there's more information on newsletter 258. So here's the flute of the whale here, this asterism here, and you can see that Flora is right next to this end star. These circles represent the field of view of a pair of binoculars, for example. So in the dark time, around about the 15th of the month, mid-month, you can see it's about a binocular field away from this end star here. If we move on, we have 4 interesting lunar occultations this month. I've introduced lunar occultations again because they're quite an easy spot, and no doubt there's a newsletter 264 which will be available, and it denotes the 4 occultations visible. On the 3rd, we have the star Iota Tauri, which is reappearing from the dark limb at 1938 UT. The moon is quite low down, altitude 12 degrees, but it's worth having a quick look at that if you can. Interestingly, on the 22nd, we have two occultations in the same evening. The first one is 69 Aquarii, and it's disappearing behind the dark limb here. The moon is moving this way, of course, covering up the star, and that happens at 2050 UT at an altitude of 18 degrees. A bit later in the evening, it occults another star, which is Tau Aquarii, at 2212, and it's setting a bit lower. It's actually lower down in the sky. It's only 10 degrees altitude, but you can see here is 69 Aquarii. Here is Tau Aquarii. The moon has moved physically from there to here in the course of around about an hour and a half. And more difficult is a full moon occultation of a star on the 29th at 1912. It's part of the zodiacal catalogue ZC 593. And because the moon is very bright, it's more difficult to see that. So these two objects here really are the best ones to look at in the coming months. So, Comet 2020 M3 Atlas. The current reports report it already increased to about 8.5 magnitude, and it's getting brighter. It's actually going through perihelion at the moment, the last few weeks, and so it may put on a little bit of a show. It's going to be a faint fuzzy for sure, a coma rather around blob rather than a tail, and it actually gets quite close to the top right-hand star of Orion, Bellatrix here, around about the 15th of the month. So, and that's also close to new moon, of course, so it's dark skies. So have a look at that if you can. It's newsletter 258. So the planets this month, we have all 5 visible to us, just about. In the evening sky, we also have 2 in the morning sky. Mercury creeps into the morning sky again and is well placed in dawn twilight by mid-month. Venus is actually getting closer to the sun in our dawn skies. It's past elongation. It's now filling up to around about 87% illuminated, very bright in dawn skies. Mars obviously is center stage. It's past opposition now, but it's still worth having a good look at early in the month. Jupiter is really heading into twilight skies rapidly now, but it is visible early in the month, early evening, in evening twilight. You can see you've added the set times in here, so you see it progressively. By the end of the month, it's setting quite early. Saturn is behind it, but not very far, so it's actually about half an hour difference in time. So do look at these early in the month to see them before they disappear into the evening twilight. Neptune is easily visible early evening, and Uranus is well placed by mid-evening. And you can see here's some graphics showing you roughly where to look. You can find Neptune next to in the constellation of Aquarius, with Pi Aquarii being the key star to find. And you can see you can find it from the circlet down here, drop down to the end star in Aquarius, and it's within the binocular field of view. It's about 7.5 magnitude, I think, at the moment, so it's reasonably bright. Uranus is even brighter, at just about 5.8 magnitude, and you can find that by finding the 2 end stars of Aries here and dropping 1.5 to 2 binocular fields down. So it's the brightest thing in that area. So, and characteristically coloured as well. So it's a fairly easy spot, actually. Mars, I've mentioned already before, but just to put a perspective on it, at opposition, we were looking at 22.7 arc seconds diameter. By the end of November, it shrunk down to 15. So do have a look at it early in the month. Use as a high magnification as you can. Combinations of ×2 and ×3 Barlow lenses with an eyepiece give you some pretty good views, but it is very bright still, so I recommend using some filtering of neutral density filters or RATN 21 just to tone down that brightness so you can make visible observations of Mars. And if you're looking around about the 2nd of November, we see that early evening in our evening sky, we have actually this feature, Syrtis Major, which is this V-shaped area of dark area here, and above it is the Hallas region, which is fairly light coloured. So, looking at the months ahead, we have asteroid Flora in opposition in Cetus, 8th magnitude on the 1st. We have a lunar occultation on the 3rd. We have the peak of the southern Taurid meteor showers on the 5th, but it is unfavourable for a number of reasons, because the moon's in the way, and also if there's any firework celebrations going on, it doesn't really help to spot meteors in the middle of a firework display. We also have last quarter on the 8th, and this is also visible in daytime sky, of course. On the 9th, we've got some one of these very odd visual effects on the moon. This is a clair obscure feature in the Frau Maro crater. It's called the Curtis Cross. More details in the Sky at Night magazine. On November the 10th, we have Mercury at greatest elongation, well placed in our dawn skies. And on the 11th, we have a conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto. Although you can't see Pluto, it is just too faint in where it's positioned at the moment. But the two come within 42 arc minutes separation. On the 12th, we have the peak of the northern Taurid meteor shower. This is more favourable because the moon is out of the way by that time. On the 13th, we have Venus and a very slender 5% waning crescent moon in dawn skies. And shortly afterwards, Mercury rises at 5:30 in the morning. So you can actually, if you're up early, you can spot some of those objects there. Also in the pre-dawn sky, we have asteroid Vesta, which is close to M95 and 96. And there is a newsletter number 263, which is available to spot that one. But you have to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to find that one. On the 15th, we have Comet 2002 M3 Atlas, 8.5 magnitude, probably by that time, or even brighter, a faint fuzzy close to the star Bellatrix Gamma Orionis. Also on the 15th is New Moon, and so it's the best time of the month to look for these many fine star clusters and deep sky objects in November skies. On November the 16th, we have a thin waxing crescent moon, 3.14%, visible in evening twilight. You have about 59 minutes to spot that after sunset, to make sure the sun is completely set before you start looking for that. On the 16th, Mars reaches its stationary point at the end of its retrograde motion, and so after that date, it resumes its more normal easterly motion. On the 17th, we have the peak of the Leonid meteor shower. In the early hours of the 18th, about 5 o'clock on the 18th is when it actually peaks. Zenith soundly rate about 15 per hour. So it's one of our more active meteor showers. On November 20th, there is an opportunity to view Mare Serenitatis. This is the lunar sea where the location of Apollo 17 landing site is located, and it's actually more difficult to spot, but it's actually in Taurus Littrow Valley. But if you're looking at the moon around about the 20th, have a look for Mare Serenitatis. On the 22nd, we have a lunar occultation, as I mentioned before, 69 Aquarii, and also we have Tau Aquarii a bit later in the evening, both as the moon's setting. Then for the 22nd is first quarter, so it's the best time to see shadow details within craters along the terminator in the evening sky. And on the 25th, we have a waxing gibbous moon lying just to the south of Mars. There is a Zoom meeting on the 26th of November with a number of LAS speakers, and the theme of the evening is observing the night sky workshop. This is mainly aimed at first steps and more advanced tips. So if you want to, develop your observing skills and don't know where to start, this is a good place to attend the Zoom meeting, and we'll do our best to guide you through making those first steps at observing the night sky. November the 27th, we have waxing gibbous moon, which lies just to the south of Uranus. The moon is at apogee, which means it's furthest away from Earth, and so the apparent diameter is actually slightly smaller than normal, 29 arc minutes. There was a lunar occultation on the 29th, which is ZC 593, magnitude 5.9, and that's a bit more difficult to spot, actually, because it's not near enough full moon. On the 30th, the full moon is the Beaver moon. Do look at the moon illusion at moonrise at about 16:03 UT. Make sure you got to position yourself with a foreground tree or lamp post or building with the moon rising behind it, and you get the best effect of the moon illusion. Later on the 30th, there is actually a penumbral lunar eclipse, but it's only begins really as the moon is setting in the UK. So there's plenty of things to look at in the night sky in November. Please do have a look at it and enjoy it. We'll do the same next month.